Lil Durk has come out publicly to share something that nobody ever expected. That King Von, just months before his tragic passing, was actually considering leaving OTF in order to protect his family, and especially his mother, from the dangers that came with his street ties and rap lifestyle. And today we're going to dive deep into this bombshell confession, uncovering the details of what this means for OTF, for Von's legacy, and for Durk's own guilt and emotion surrounding the entire tragedy. Now buckle in, because this is a story layered with loyalty, betrayal, pain, love for family, and the cold, brutal reality of the streets. Lil Durk's revelation is something that truly stops everyone in their tracks. For years, the relationship between Durk and King Von was painted as nothing less than brotherhood. They were like two sides of the same coin, Von being the raw, street-certified presence with storytelling talent unmatched, while Durk was the industry-seasoned leader of OTF, the one carrying the flag of their movement. To the fans, OTF wasn't just a label, it was a family. And Von, he wasn't just any member. He was a star, the chosen one, the one who was going to take OTF to another level. But according to Durk himself, beneath that brotherly bond and all the images we saw in music videos, behind the wild performances and the brotherhood energy, there was a conversation that nobody ever knew about. A conversation that would change everything. Durk now admits that Von told him straight up, "I'm thinking of leaving OTF." And the reason? It wasn't money. It wasn't ego. It wasn't even personal beef with Durk. It was deeper than rap. Von's reason was family. He told Durk he wanted to protect his mother, his siblings, and the people he loved most. He recognized that being tied to OTF, with its street reputation, its constant beefs, its public target status, meant his family would never truly be safe. And this is where the story gets heartbreaking. Because just a few months later, Von would tragically be cut down in the streets of Atlanta, his life gone before he could even put that plan into action. Think about the weight of that for a moment. A man who had survived shootouts, jail time, the deadly streets of Chicago, and countless near-death experiences, was finally ready to step away from the chaos. He was ready to chart a new path, not just for himself, but for his family. He was ready to break free from the cycle of violence that swallowed so many young men from Chicago. And yet, before he could take that step, he was gone. It's almost chilling. Almost like fate stepped in, denying a chance to rewrite his story. Now, when Durk opened up about this, fans were quick to connect dots. Many people remembered Von's last days, his movements, the way he carried himself before his death. They pointed out that he seemed restless, that he was moving differently, that there was almost a sense of urgency in him. His music videos, his interviews, even the way he spoke about life and death, it all reflected someone who was aware that the clock was ticking. Some say Von even foreshadowed his own death in his lyrics, painting vivid pictures of betrayal, sudden violence, and the thin line between life and death. Durk, for his part, admitted that hearing Von say he wanted to leave OTF was heavy. On one hand, he respected it. He understood it. Because let's be real, anyone who knows the streets knows that the biggest sacrifice you can make is choosing your family over fame, over money, over the gang. But on the other hand, Durk also knew what Von meant to OTF. Von wasn't just another artist. He was the heartbeat, the energy, the force that made people believe in the label. If Von left, OTF would have lost its brightest star. And for Durk, that reality was painful. Still, he said he never stood in Von's way. If that was what Von wanted, he would have supported it. But destiny didn't even give him the chance to figure it out. To really understand the magnitude of this revelation, we have to go back into Von's story. Von wasn't an ordinary rapper. He wasn't industry manufactured. He wasn't polished by executives in a boardroom. Von was the streets. He was Chicago. He lived the stories he rapped about, which is why his music hit so hard. When he spoke, you believed him because you knew it was real. His upbringing in Parkway Gardens, known as O-Block, shaped him into the man he became. Jail time hardened him. Street wars sharpened his survival skills. But through all of that, Von always carried one thing close to his heart: his family, especially his mother. People who knew him personally always said that as wild as Von could be in the streets, the one soft spot he had was for his mom. She was his anchor. She was the reason he wanted to make it big. And so, When he told Durk he wanted to leave OTF for her safety, it was not surprising. It was consistent with who Vaughn really was deep down. And here's where it gets even more tragic. Had Vaughn lived long enough to act on his decision, the whole trajectory of his career might have been different. Imagine King Vaughn as an independent artist, or even start his own movement separate from OTF. With his growing fame, he had the fan base, the money, and the momentum to make it work. He was already on the verge of superstardom. His album Welcome to O'Block was critically acclaimed and loved by fans worldwide. He was collaborating with some of the biggest names in the industry. If he had survived, Vaughn could have become not just a Chicago legend, but a mainstream giant. But the streets never let go so easily. And that's the cruel twist of his story. Now let's talk about the impact on Lil Durk himself. This revelation doesn't just paint Vaughn in a new light. It also reveals the kind of burden Durk has been carrying. Imagine being Lil Durk, knowing that your closest friend, your artist, your right-hand man, came to you and said he wanted to leave, and then months later, he dies violently. That's the kind of pain that lingers forever. It makes you question yourself. Could you have done more? Could you have pushed him harder to leave earlier? Could you have protected him? Fans believe this may explain some of Durk's emotional breakdowns on stage, his decision to withdraw from the spotlight at times, and his constant references to Vaughn in his music. It's survivor's guilt and it haunts him. Durk also admitted that Vaughn's decision forced him to re-examine his own life. If Vaughn, who was younger and wilder, could recognize the danger and want to leave, what did that mean for Durk, who was already a father and already had so much on the line? This is why in the years since Vaughn's death, we've seen Durk try to change his own lifestyle. He's talked about wanting to leave beat behind, about focusing on family and business, about moving smarter. Some people criticize him for still being involved in drama, but when you step back, you see a man who is genuinely struggling to balance loyalty with survival. And what about the OTF brand itself? Well, Vaughn's absence left a hole that can never truly be filled. The chemistry between him and Durk was unique, irreplaceable. Other members of OTF have talent, yes, but Vaughn had charisma. He had that energy that made people stop and listen. Losing him changed the whole dynamic of the crew. And now, with this revelation, fans are left wondering, what would OTF have looked like if Vaughn had actually left while still alive? Would it have collapsed? Or would it have forced others to step up? We'll never know. But the questions are endless.